Hi friends, I'm excited to share a new layout with you today using the December Color Kitz from Shimmerz Paints. I started by cutting the word joyful using my Cricut software. I used the font Babette and I cut it out of two patterned papers from the December Color Kitz. So one is kind of a darker, almost like a purpley red Santa patterned paper, and then I did a very light pink patterned paper. It was the Christmas trees, and then I layered those together, and I will end up going back and adding a third darker layer, but to start I just did those two layers, and then I cut it to where it filled all the way across the page. So I wanted it to be like side to side, and so I cut it as large as I possibly could while still fitting it on a 12 by 12 piece of paper. And then I kind of laid out where I wanted my photos to go and traced around that so that I knew where I wanted my paint on the background to go. And then for this color that I started with, this is the Inklings Hot Stuff from the December bonus bundle. So that Inklings is in the bonus bundle that comes with the beautiful sequins and all of that. And I used some packaging. This was actually packaging. If you've watched my videos, I've had this packaging for a really long time. It is actually almost like foam, and it has sort of like a square pattern in it. And it came with my son's PlayStation wrapped in it, so a long time ago. And I love how when I use that type of packaging, it sort of leaves a slight pattern on the background where you can kind of see the lines and the hash marks. So I used that on that background, and then here I am going to use an ink blending tool. So it just has a foam tip on the end of it, and I am using two colors from the December Color Kitz. The first one is the Spritz Ruby, which is super appropriate because my daughter is Ruby. So that's that darker red, and then it's actually kind of a reddish pinkish color. It's beautiful. And then the other half of that foam dauber, I used Color Splash Pinking of You. So that Color Splash is actually an acrylic spray, and so it dries more opaque, and so you can't see as much of what's underneath it. But when I put those two colors together, I love the transformation that happens. So I love this technique. It's one I've used before. It's if you watch my videos, you've seen me do this before. And I love to add colors that mix really well together on the end of these daubers, and then just kind of lightly push it down. There were a couple of places that, if you were paying close attention, I pushed a little too hard, and so the color did kind of squeeze out the sides, but that's okay because, mixed media is not supposed to look perfect. So if the most important thing when you're using this technique is to make sure that the colors that you're using, you could actually do 3 or 4 colors if you wanted to. You just need to make sure that they're colors that blend well when they mix. So pink and red, of course, are going to blend really well together. If you did like purple and orange, not so much. You'd get like a really gross color probably. So kind of depending, I guess, on what you use. But so I loved how those circles looked. And then I took just a circle tracer. So I cut a circle that was about the same size as the end of the dauber, and then used that to trace around the circles, just adding like a black, kind of like a black border. It's very subtle. It's not super noticeable, but it did make a big difference with helping those circles stand out a little bit more. So here I went back and added another offset layer using my Cricut software. So just one more shadow layer, and that is going to help that word joyful stand out so much more. So once I had all the color on the background, the patterned paper blended in a little bit too much. So by adding that third darker layer, it gives me a contrast to the background. And that cardstock that I was using is sort of like it's almost like a metallic-y cardstock. It's actually from Michael's, the Recollections brand, and I've had it forever. I bought a whole bunch of it when I bought it, and it's almost like it's a mix between like a gray and a black and a chrome kind of look. So depending on the light that you get, it looks a little bit lighter or darker. It's a cool paper. So I added that back behind there, and I thought that went well with the black borders that I added to the circles. And then I glued it. I wanted it going at an angle across. And at first, right now I have my photos square with the paper. I am going to go back and change the angle of those photos because I kind of make everything sort of going at an angle. So right now they're straight, but I'm going to fix them here in just a second. And then I spelled out Pajama Day using a chipboard set that I had from Hip Kit Club that's very old, and it's pink with gold. Like there's a gold letter and then the border of it is pink. So I love that little font. It is kind of hard to see on video. In person, it's a lot easier to see because it stands up, like the dimension of it is a lot better. So, but on video, I'm noticing that it's hard to see that written there. But I did glue it down kind of at the same angle that I have the word joyful going. And then I cut a journaling piece. This is from the Wrapped in Ribbons collection from Vicki Boutin. And I just cut out that square or that rectangular journaling piece. I'm going to distress the edges, and then I'm going to mount it on one of the pink patterned papers from the December Color Kitz. So you'll see that. I just needed some lines for my journaling that I'm going to add. And then I did end up using this pink patterned paper, and I was careful when I was gluing it down to make sure that the dots weren't going to mess with. I wanted solid pink around the journaling block. So I placed that journaling block carefully when I was gluing it to the pink patterned paper. Okay, and then here you see I pull up those photos, and they were good and stuck down. So I had to kind of finagle it, but it ended up working out just fine because I put them back almost exactly where they were, but just changed the angle that they were going. So I wanted them to be going at the same angle as the words. And you'll see what a transformation that makes, because it wasn't working for me. Something about it with them straight, like I kept thinking, okay, I don't like this layout. Like something is not working for me. Like it just was bothering me. And as soon as I changed the angles of the photos to match the angle of the word and all that, I was like, okay, it's all gonna work out. Like it started making sense in my mind. So it's amazing how sometimes just one little thing, you don't even know exactly what it is that's bothering you, but kind of tweaking a few little things, it helps it all work out. So the journaling block, I'm going to go ahead and tuck it under the very ends of those letters, the Y and the F. So it kind of looks layered. And if you've been watching my last few videos, you know I'm trying to use less craft foam, so while still having dimension and lots of layers. So I'm trying to do that in lots of different ways, but I'm really, really trying to not make them so thick. So I did a good job on this layout. It's pretty flat, but it still has like the chipboard dimension, and I will add a little bit of craft foam as I go and add the ephemera around. So I added the journaling, and then I took some of the cute little pieces. So like that little gingerbread man, I used that on my one of those on my last layout too. I love those little gingerbread pieces. So I added the little gingerbread man with some tangled thread behind it, and then the snowman, and the little nutcracker is going to go right up to the right of my photos. And I used red and then a bright pink thread, so to do my tangled thread. So everything is red and pink on the layout except for the few little black accents. And I did the thread and then just glued the little pieces to the background. And then I'm going to use the epoxy dots. I actually end up only using one of those. So the one that I'm trying to figure out a place for it to go right now, I don't end up adding that one to the layout. I just add the little gingerbread epoxy dots down at the bottom by the snowman. And then somehow I missed getting it on camera, but I added another little snowman up at the top of my photo, and I cut that out of one of the patterned papers, that pink polka dot pattern paper that I used for the journaling block. It had 5 little snowmen going across the bottom that are so super cute. I just fussy cut one of those snowmen out. And then I kind of made a slit where his scarf is so that I could have the scarf overhanging the picture, but the rest of the snowman is behind the picture. And then that little phrase, I love you snow much, is from the ephemera set. Then I used a bunch of sequins from the bonus bundle, and then some crystals and half pearls from my stash, and then of course pops of color. So that is the finished layout. There's that little cute snowman. So there are some close-ups of that. The December color kits are sold out. So if you are loving the things that Shimmerz is making, which I am, you should go ahead and subscribe to the color kits, because then you for sure get them and they don't get sold out. And then add my name to your order if you place an order, and you'll get a free gift. Bye guys.